Hi, welcome to the Fotobug channel on YouTube. In a previous video, we did a first look at the Neewer Motorized slider. And in that video, we promised we were going to do an assembly because even though that Neewer included some instructions, they're rather sparse to say the least and really don't give any indication on how to put this together. And I know we've had a couple people ask about, how the belt goes onto the motor. So we thought we'd do a quick video here on how to assemble the Neewer slider. Okay, first thing you want to do is make sure you have all the parts that you need. In addition to the motor, which is packed separately, there should be a plastic bag in the little case that came with the Neewer. And you should have two of these plates, and these you'll see that have little ridges, teeth. And a larger plate that has a little indented area in it. In addition, you should have a larger Allen wrench and a slightly smaller Allen wrench. You should have 4 of these larger Allen screws. You should have 2 of these mediums and 2 of these smaller screws. Now, in my particular package, for some reason, they gave me extra ones of each. I don't know if those are in case I lost them, not quite sure. But make sure you have those parts in addition to the belt, which will be used to drive the motor. First thing we're going to do is assemble the motor. Now the motor goes on the platform, and we want to make sure that this doesn't move, and it goes on the opposite side from this tighten screw. So make sure that you tighten that down. Don't forget to loosen them up before you go to use it to keep the platform from moving. And it uses 2 of the larger screws. That's these larger Allen screws, and they just go in here. This should be fairly simple. The problem is the Allen screw isn't quite long enough, or the Allen wrench, I should say, and so you're going to have to, unless you have a longer one in your toolkit, this will take a little time to assemble, but you want to go ahead and put that in there and tighten it up. And it really only goes one way, so this is something that should be rather obvious. So go ahead and tighten that up in there. And that takes care of the motor. Okay, the next thing is we're going to go ahead and assemble the 2 plates that hold the belt in place. And this is probably the confusing part for most people. So you want to take the plate that has the little ridge, the cutout section in there, and as you'll notice, it has 3 holes in it. You want to line that up. As you can see here, I've got one in. You line up with the screws. Now you want to put this on the same side as the motor. That's the side away from the little tighten screws on the platform. So it's going to go on this way, and you'll use one of the smaller screws, and then the medium Allen screw, and that will go in there as 2 holes in the bottom of this plate here that will hold those. Now there's also 2 on the other side here, but that is on the wrong side. I guess they made this so it could go either way. So make sure you put this on the motor side. That's very, very important. Next, what you want to do is take your belt and put it in there, and you want it with the ridges, the little teeth up. Put it in that little slot, and then the next piece that has the little teeth is going to go over like this, and the larger Allen screw goes down, and those teeth are going to, on the aluminum, will hold against the teeth on the belt to keep that from loosening. And tighten that down. Make sure these are nice and tight. And then I would give your belt a little tug just to make sure that it's not going to slip out of there. And it should not. Okay, the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to assemble our belt over the motor drive. Now, you'll notice that this has these two guides and then a rotor with teeth on it. So that teeth engages with the teeth on the belt, and that's what drives. So what you're going to do is put that loops over the guide around the mechanism there, just like that. So it goes in and loops and comes back up and around. And then it's going to be attached on the other side. And just make sure that we have some tension on that. Okay, finally we're going to mount the other end in. And basically this goes on the same way as the previous one. You take the aluminum piece with a slot in it. We're going to drop the I call the small Allen screw down, and we're going to use the little Allen wrench that was included to tighten that down on there. Just like that. Then we're going to take the medium Allen screw that goes into the next slot there. We're going to tighten that down. Tighten those up, make sure they're nice and tight. Finally, we're going to take the plate. Again, this is the one with the ridges. And we're going to pull our belt, put it across that slot that's in the bottom one. Turn this so those ridge size down, and one of those holes is going to go over that medium. Then we're going to use one of the larger Allen screws. That goes down like that, and I'm holding the belt so it's taut. It's important that you keep tension on that belt. And we'll go ahead and tighten that up. And now as we got some good tension on that, and that's the assembly. All right, finally, we've got our motor on, we've got our belt all set up. You want to charge the battery. Make sure your battery's charged up. Go ahead and that pops into place like this. It's got a little Velcro strapped to make sure it stays in place. Do make sure that the tension is sufficient. You don't want this stretched too tight, but you don't want it too loose either, or the motor will be kind of sloppy. Finally, don't forget to loosen up your adjustment screws back here that holds the motor in place, or the platform in place, because you don't want to scratch up or ruin your motor if it's locked, and you could ruin the motor drive. You push the button, make sure that the motor comes on, and you should be all set. Okay, well, there you have it. Neewer assembly isn't that difficult. And if you have any questions or anything was confusing, be sure to leave the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Fotobug channel. We plan to do more videos on this, more in-depth review, as well as information on how to do time-lapse, because again, the information on the app isn't quite clear on exactly how you go about that, so we're going to include some more information. To get the app too, I believe the information is, let me see here in the instructions. There is one for iOS and one for Android, and also they have QR codes on either side of the motor assembly here that you can scan with your phone and download the app. So again, have questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and we'll see you in the next video.